The Turks attacked Fort St. Elmo from all sides and bombarded the fort with cannonballs from Mount Chabaras. The defenders held out until the 23rd of June. But the Turks had lost 8,000 men, including their commander Dragut Reis. In revenge, the Turks tied the few survivors to crosses and threw them into the harbor. Suleiman then attacked Birgu from the land. Finally, there was hardly a house left standing, but de la Valletta and what remained of his 600 knights and 9,000 men-at-arms refused to surrender, and the Turks were finally driven off on the 26th of August. With the arrival on the 7th of September of an expeditionary force of 8,500 men-at-arms and 250 knights sent by the Viceroy of Sicily, Suleiman and what was left of his fleet fled back to Constantinople. In all, he had lost 30,000 men. Grandmaster de la Valletta had learned his lesson. Mount Chabaras would be the key to any future defense of the harbor. On the 26th of March 1566, La Valletta laid the foundation stone of the magnificent new city. Over the next few years, under Girolamo Cassar's supervision, the magnificent fortress city of Valletta was built. But these huge ramparts and bastions were never put to the test. At the Battle of Lepanto in 1571, Suleiman's fleet was completely destroyed. He would never again be a threat to the now Christian Mediterranean. History is rarely a series of simple facts that a list of dates might suggest. For years, Suleiman had had an ally in Europe, the French King Francois I. Although the Order of Hospitallers had been formed in Jerusalem by Italian merchants, over the years it had been France that had provided the majority of knights. And of the 77 grandmasters, 44 of them were French. The knights were the beneficiaries of double nationality. So in a certain sense, these battles were like so many European wars, family squabbles on a grand scale. In 1789, things changed dramatically in France, and over the next few years in the whole of Europe. The Maltese also hoped to throw off the yoke of foreign kings and the now corrupt knights, some of whom ironically were also supporters of the French Revolution. So, for a variety of reasons, when Grandmaster Hampèche treasonably handed the city over to Napoleon on the 12th of June 1798, there wasn't a shot fired in anger. However, the French quickly became unwelcome guests. Although they expelled the knights from the islands and confiscated their property in France, they also looted many of the Maltese churches and national treasures, and their treatment of the Maltese was worse than that of the knights. The Maltese population started an insurrection. A delegation begged help from the British fleet. Lord Nelson obliged by blockading General Henri Vaubois and his 4,000 men inside Valletta. 2 years later, near to starvation, the French garrison surrendered. And the British were invited to protect Malta. That was the beginning of 160 years of an often uneasy love affair with the British Empire. The Maltese population wanted more autonomy or even independence. But that was a question that would have to wait many years to be answered. Meanwhile, 1/3 of the population, 65,000 people, had migrated around the Mediterranean basin by the early 1900s. Manpower, Malta's primary raw material. The islands had served as a hospital for the injured from the Dardanelles in the First World War. But in World War II, Malta again found herself almost alone against overwhelming odds. The Italians attempted suicide missions by sea. Deep inside the massive walls and bastions of Valletta are the Lascaris war rooms, the underground operations center used by the commanders of Britain's armed forces, which are now a museum to the period that the islands were under constant attack.